Okay, y'all. It's been weird. It's been a little weird. I've been out here at the grave site, and it's been really raining a lot. Um, it was one reader told me that it's an ancestor reader. She gives messages from the ancestors or whatever, and it was due to my sign or whatever last week. And she was like, and I've been lately just coming to see my mom a lot because I kept her before she passed away. But they had took her to my hometown, and she fell and broke her pelvic bone down there. And after that, things went skyrocket, went crazy or whatever, y'all. People be out here in these streets all involved in darkness, not really knowing what they're doing, where they're going, and all of that, because they literally be lost. We don't know how our ending time or what our ending is going to be. We got to be we have to be receptive to God's call to the spiritual realm. A lot of people think that they're embarking on a spiritual journey or you got to surrender your whole self to God to be divine, and it's a lot of work. I keep telling people it's not easy as just saying it, like just saying the word divine, like people are thinking, oh, I'm divine, I'm a divine spiritual being, I'm a divine spiritual twin flame. It's a lot of hard work to do with this situation, y'all. And that's what I was trying to explain to y'all. You don't never know how your ending is going to be. It could be something simple or to do with your health. When we leave this earth, or it could be something tragic or whatever. It all depends on, it all depends on universal karmic justice or whatever being given to oneself. And so I sit here and I'm sitting up here thinking or whatever, and I've been telling people or whatever, I've been trying to put some things together and try to figure out why, because I'm like, God, why did, my mom and her kids have to endure so much and go through so much? And the lady who were on YouTube, and she said your ancestors are fighting for you, and your deceased loved ones are fighting for you in the spiritual realm. You have a lot of deceased loved ones that you haven't, and they want for you to come and see them at the gravesite because you haven't been in a long time. And that, I believe that to be true, because I hadn't went. I only was going to see my mom all the time. I wouldn't go across the street to see my other family members. I didn't. I hadn't been in a long time since my middle nephew, which had got shot and killed at the club during a Crip and Blood gang shootout that he wasn't even involved in. And when the last time I went there, I just bawled and bawled and bawled and bawled my eyes out. And it was so overwhelming and so depressed from situations, from the way I had been, like how I had lost so many deceased, like loved ones or whatever, to death, that I couldn't take anymore. So I hadn't went out there in a long time. And so I'm trying to get some stuff together, and I'm asking God why, and we can't question God and woo woo woo, and I'm just like, what happened why, what was all of this from? And I'm really starting to get a grasp of things and get a handle on the situation. And God is slowly but surely bringing answers together for me. My grandmother and grandfather, my grandfather's supposed to been connected in the Masons. And guys, if you go back, like I've been going back and looking up things to do with the Masons, my grandmother was a Baptist. She was a Christian or whatever, and she seemed so peaceful. But I believe what got all of this started was my grandmother got with my grandfather, and he had been in the military and so forth. But we don't know how he decided to join the military. I don't know how he met my grandmother or whatever. But my grandmother and her mother was peaceful beings. And they had, I believe them to have had real genuine love in their hearts for people. My grandfather was connected to the Masons, and if you go look up the Masons, it is stemming from like jealousy and all of this. But it says beforehand, it says the Masons, that organization was to do with men joining that particular organization because it would teach them how to be a good man. My grandfather was not a good man. Make them from better to be a good man. And I'm just like, okay, no. So I'm starting to kind of put this together. I believe in the beginning, my grandparents, she met my grandfather. I believe she loved him. But I believe that his heart was cold. Things had happened to him. I know I hear stories about when he were younger and a child that things had happened. But I also believe that, at first him and my grandmother got together. And, at first it was love because my grandmother had love in her heart for him. But then it turned cold. And my grandmother began to have children. And out of her cold, rejected, projected, insecure, because by then my grandfather had been doing everything in the book and had caused her so much hurt and pain, and her heart was full of rejection. It was closed off. And at some point in time, she birthed these children, which was my parents and her other kids, and she birthed them out of a cold heart, but she was a loving being. I'm not going to say her heart was still closed off and it was cold when she passed, because from the start of it, when she got with my grandfather, I don't believe that her heart was cold. I believe that it was a learned lesson of processing that had occurred to her that caused her to be this way. And so I believe that my grandparents, she birthed these children out of a cold heart that was not open. That's what people fail to realize. And when you do that, it causes your children to be like that. Now, but the spirit always gonna come inside of us, and it's gonna be pure. Now, the spiritual demons and ungodly soul ties that could be in oneself from their bloodline curse could cause you to pick up just by spiritual, from the spiritual aspect or the spiritual part of yourself, could cause you to inherit and generationally pick up onto bloodline curses, which could cause you to be as your grandparents were, your grandparents were, or something of that nature. But it is choices. We all have choices to change the way that we are being. If you don't open up your heart and you keep your heart closed off, cold, and all of that, you're not operating out of a great space. And even when you have kids, they're going to be able, it's a bloodline, it's in your DNA. Because we're all made of spirit. And if you're made of spirit and you are birthing out of a dark spirit, which is from your heart being closed off, cold, and all of that, you're birthing children out of an unloving space, which could cause generational curses that they have came with spiritually that could affect your seeds and seeds to come. So I believe my grandparents, this happened with them. And that Mason stuff or whatever, it was a learned behavior. My grandfather had already picked up and connected with that. That's what he was a part of, that organization. And it fell down upon his children. And if you go and look this up, it's like satanically will destroy your family from jealousy, hate, envy, strife, division, like. And so if you people are wondering why things have happened, but you were basically, because you chose to not have a heart that was like that at birth, and as you grew up, you were already a spiritual divine being because it was instilled inside of you. I don't know if your grandmother or whatever, I know that her mother was pure, love, kindness, all of that. Your grandmother's parents didn't have hate and jealousy and all this stuff in them as your grandfather side of the family had. And it brought on generational curses, plus the behaviors and the learned behaviors that your grandfather brought around his children that caused them to be as they were. And your mother was cold-hearted and her heart was closed off by the time she birthed you, because she had been raped and molested and had a lot of things happen to her, to where her heart was just closed off. She was stuck. She didn't know which way to go. And a lot of these people that are operating on YouTube, off of YouTube, whatever, they are just as such. And these people are birthing me, anyone else, anyone that's doing it. Jealous-hearted children out of their hearts, and their kids could have everything in the world and still be a jealous-hearted, ugly person because they were born from a person that's such. And that's why you see these kids feeling so entitled and so prideful and egotistical, because they have been born to a person that feel that they cannot be have their asses torn off the bone, which is happening right now and is occurring right now. And if you don't shed and get off the pot and stop it, God is gonna let the devil, the same devil that's using you, rip your ass to shreds. Now, you need to get this and get this now. Because God, he's fed up with the bougiac. He's fed up with devil-minute people operating out of devil-minute energies. And you would think that you people got all the stuff that you want physically, that it would make your heart change and be a better person, which it's not, because you don't have it spiritually, because your heart been blocked off and shut off and cold from traumas that you wouldn't even imagine of, that you haven't begun to even allow God to touch. You won't go surrender. You won't go repent. You won't go do anything and change your ways. You just continue out of a physical plane, which is destroying this world because of your little body. Okay? Y'all need to understand this. Seriously. I will be back with some more.